Hi, I'm in the university parks, not very far from the entrance and not very far from the science area, which is there. And I'm going to talk today about where to find shade. It's probably round about 26, 27, and although the sun isn't really out, there's a sort of undistinguished cloud covering most of the sky. It's remarkably muggy and not all that comfortable. Not so much because of the heat, which I don't mind, but the humidity. But there are some nice places in the parks where, to some extent, you can escape that, and I'm just going to see how that goes. Now, the first thing is that the parks does have a load of trees of assorted sizes, and as you can see, some people are sitting in the sun, but others are sitting under the trees. So that's one source of coolness straight away. There's a slight sort of, rather variable in direction, but sort of possibly slightly easterly breeze, and it actually feels quite warm and muggy, but it seems to get a little bit cooler if I walk in this direction, towards the river maybe, and down into a rather dank bit of the parks near the science area here. There's one guy peacefully sleeping in the distance right up against the science area fence. And I don't think all that many people think of this bit when they visit the parks, but it's certainly here. This is a Friday afternoon, it's about 4:20, and for Friday there are quite a lot of people out. As I've said before, this is one of the safe spaces in Oxford. You can happily sunbathe here and do so without worrying about people stealing your shoes and glasses. That is a gate into the science area. And of course, if you sit down here, you have a variety of very interesting architectural styles to look at. I mean, where would you ever see something like that? I'm just waiting for the day when the genetics department gets too big for its boots and starts producing trees with blue leaves and the university motto imprinted on them. I'm also wondering, speaking of the genetics department, flowers have tongues, sort of, bits of stuff, leaves and flowers and things that wiggle around. Things that wiggle around make sound. And flowers also come in a variety of shapes and colours, especially when they're orchids. There's an orchid whose flowers look to bees, at least like another bee, at least to another bee, for example. So I think it'd be rather splendid if you could make flowers that look like young blackbirds. And that sing like young blackbirds too. And then you could end up with flowers which are pollinated by blackbirds, and I think that would be a lovely plant to have in a garden.
Because I'm hoping none of them.
Now, I must say, I like that. It is so rare to see people wearing anything colourful in Oxford. It may be an artistic and creative city, but most of its inhabitants prefer black. And not even goth black. That casts a lot of shade, but I don't recommend sitting on the ground because it's full of pine needles.
I low-key have like a certain
Now, if you're using the parks for the first few times and you're practicing sprinting, say, it's important to be aware that there are paths like this because otherwise you're quite likely to end up in the charwell, though that is a good way of cooling down. Another good way of cooling down is to fall out of a punt, and I can recommend that one. And I can feel, as it were, I don't know quite how to put this, a microclimate escaping from the trees, as if the air is much cooler underneath than around, and some of that is leaking out towards me round the edges. And it does also feel as though the wind is a little bit cooler when it comes over the charwell. And in fact, I used that 2 years ago. I don't generally mind heat. I've sat happily on the grass drawing cartoons, say, when it's been 38 outside. And I've done plenty of walks at 30 or 32. But the year before last it was 38, I think, one day, and that did seem quite hot then. I think it was very muggy. So I walked slowly over to the parks and sat very close to the charwell, and that was just nice and refreshing. Those things seem to be enjoying themselves. And very annoyingly, I can't zoom in on these because the zoom control on my gimbal has frozen solid. I'll have to see when I get home whether I can unstick it. I noticed that last night when I was doing the Pusey House to St Barnabas Corpus Christi procession. I had to throw away a short chunk of introductory video because I'd tried zooming in and got a messed up picture.
Instead of
Mark, I kind of rate the swimming idea.
Yeah,
If you guys fancy.
when's this tomorrow?
Apparently the king is going. Apparently the king is going.
It's traditional for the girls to sit on silken cushions, probably embroidered with mallows, while eating strawberries and cream and sipping from champagne glasses, while the men do the punting. And that party isn't playing the role too well. Moreover, I have to say that it seemed to be moving almost as fast as the punts. And I think that says something about something, but I'm not sure what.
There's always a theme, and sometimes they do things like children's books, like that's been one of the parts. But they do, like, it's always a theme that's kind of similar to, like,
You want to try one more time?
like something to do with.
Those things must be feeling the heat. Probably time to trim them and then find out what it's possible to knit with dog hair. And it's nice and cool here. Definitely. Okay, well, on the basis of explorations so far during this video, I think that here and on the riverbank nearby are probably the best places to seek coolness in hot sun. Unless you want to try falling in from a punt, which also works. Oh, you probably won't see much of that. It looked like somebody standing up in a sort of red and white plastic canoe. I did a video a few months ago about the amount of fluff put out by the rushes growing in the duck pond, and somebody commented with the dreadful pun, rush hour. Well, the fluff has long gone. Actually, I do have a video of somebody falling off a punt. I must put it up. And here it's suddenly becoming cooler again, and I think this time it's microclimates being blown out from under these trees. There's an area of treed land that goes all the way across the north fence of the parks. I don't particularly recommend lying on it unless you've got maybe several blankets or a camp bed or similar, because it's uneven ground, spiky, full of bits of bark and broken tree branch, and surprisingly rich in things that like to suck your blood. And there's an odd sort of uneven distribution of temperatures here. Definitely cooler than normal on the left of my forehead, and warm and a bit muggy on the right. But altogether, not a bad place to sit. And I have to say it comes pretty close to the dictionary definition of idyllic, especially if you have a plate of strawberries and a glass of champagne that you've managed to get from one of the punters. I don't think the white tops that those girls are wearing started off that sort of uneven orange colour, and I do think they've been celebrating the end of finals, despite the notices telling you to stay smart. I think I pointed at one when I was near the bridge, and it's a list of things the university wants you to do, or rather not do, in order to avoid annoying passers-by, shopkeepers, the people who sweep the streets, and everything else with detritus such as champagne corks, broken champagne bottles, poppers, whatever that party string that comes out of the cones that explode when you pull a string is called, and so on and so on and so on. There's been a lot of that in the past, and the university is trying to clamp down. So they've got some very strict but colourful notices saying be smart, and one of the headings reminds you that if you don't be smart, you're liable to a £150 fine. The custom is called trashing, and I think that's an American word that has been imported over here. And if you Google, say, Oxford University trashing in an image search, I'm sure you'll find some pictures, even if they're perhaps a few years old now. I've done a few videos about the Oseney Mead Industrial Estate, and the Oseney Mead Industrial Estate includes a bulk buy shop called Booker's. It used to be cheaper than it's for things like crates of cans of Coke and jars of mayonnaise and other catering supplies, and it used to be cheaper to buy stuff there if, say, you were an independent caterer or shop buying the stock that you resell or use. It used to be cheaper to buy that there than it would have done to, say, buy it from the supermarkets. Apparently it now isn't, due to it being taken over by Tesco, who raised the prices and got rid of the cheaper stock. But in any case, it's still there, and I used to have a card to it. And I do remember that on one occasion when somebody we knew had finished finals, we emptied a catering-sized jar of Branston pickle over them. Get your trashing supplies at Booker's. Branston pickle is full of little bits, as you probably know. The victim said it felt like somebody throwing up over his head. Now, what's going on here? Feels really nice and cool here now. I do remember actually having sat and read here several times. I did manage one May to find a few nice clear places to sit and read and get enough sunlight to be able to see the book. Somewhere round here against the fence. I think there was quite a lot of greenery, but still enough space, and it was sort of relaxing sitting in the middle of basically a small copse. And I was reading a book called Kinderhand about the adventures of a young Dutch boy who seemed, at the time I was reading it, to be working his way through a very similar landscape. So this is the most shade there is in one place in the university parks.
There's a surprise in each one of your bedrooms and surprises for Chia.
There's a surprise in each one of your bedrooms and a surprise out here. Wow. Well, they've got a lot of money. Wish I did. Look at that. So now I'm at the top of the parks, and I'm going to walk back to the other end by the pancake store. Those things are lovely. Smell them before the flowers drop. Celebrate smart. There we are. Stay safe. Make it green. Avoid fines. Don't take part in trashing to avoid a £150 littering fine. Respect others and tidy away. And don't use catering size Branston pickle. Though I think a catering size jar of Hellman's mayonnaise might be pretty good too. Anyway, this is me just outside the parks, looking at Keble. See you next time.